Hi guys, and welcome to Fandom Newbie. My name is Shruti and today I'm going to be talking about some more overrated books. So I've already done a video like this in the past, which is like popular books I did not like. I'll link it up here so you guys can check it out. But I thought I would do like one more video like this because I have a few other books that I want to talk about. And these are not necessarily books that I hated, but like some of them I just feel are very overrated, and some of them I actually did not really enjoy that much. But again, like I did in that other video, I have to start with a disclaimer being like, these are my opinions about these books. If you enjoy any of these books and if you like them, then that's absolutely fine. Just as you are entitled to loving these books, I'm entitled to my opinion of not enjoying them as much or thinking that they are overrated. So let's just agree to disagree, and please be nice in the comments if you do disagree with me, and if any of these books are one of your favorite books, then just be nice in the comments. That's all I can ask. Okay, let's get started. The first book that I want to talk about is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Now, I have done an entire reading blog of this book where I've gone kind of like in depth into things that I didn't like about it. Again, I'll link it up here so you guys can check it out. But basically, I went into this book thinking that it would be kind of like a fictional story about this man who was on a journey to find, I think it was like a treasure or something. Like I thought it was going to be a more of like a fictional, you know, very like mystical, magical story. But instead what I got was kind of like an extremely overbearing philosophical story with a lot of philosophical and religious teachings that were just like put down my throat. I felt like I don't mind books being philosophical, and I don't mind, like, you know, books talking about religion, but I like being told stories, like philosophical stories or philosophical teachings, through fictional means. Being like, if there's a certain character that believes in something and that character talks about it, like I like for it to not be so literal. Things like philosophy or religion or anything should kind of be left to your own interpretation, and you should have the power to form your opinions about whether that particular teaching is right or wrong, or at least that's what I feel. Whereas in this book, I felt like it was very literal, and I felt like we were being told that you have to believe in this and you have to think in this way, otherwise you're wrong. Like, I don't know, that's how I felt while I was reading this book, and I just don't like that kind of philosophical writing. Like, I don't like that sort of literal philosophical writing style, so that's why I didn't really enjoy this book that much. The next book that I want to talk about is a little bit controversial because I feel a lot of people love this book, and that is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. Okay, so this book, I won't say that I just like absolutely hated it, because it does have a few things going for it. This book, firstly, is very easy to read. Like, it's a very good book for beginners to read. Also because it is super binge worthy. Like, I finished reading this book in almost half a day or something like that. Like, I just could not put it down because it was so addictive. Also, the way the book is structured, because each chapter is like so short, I feel like it just makes it very binge worthy, and like you cannot put this book down. So I feel like it has those things going for it. But I feel, as a person who loves a lot of psychological thrillers and who has read a lot of psychological thrillers, to me, the ending of this book was super predictable. I know that if you've not read a lot of thrillers, or like, I don't know, you just like don't get so invested in thrillers like the way I do, you might still be shocked by the ending. But for me, it was super predictable. Like, I guessed the ending of the book like way before the ending actually happened, and so I just wasn't left feeling very shocked or very satisfied by the ending. And because of that, I feel like it completely hampered my reading experience with the book, because I feel like the fun of a thriller is when you're shocked at the end by the ending, like, oh my god, I didn't expect this twist at all. Whereas with this book, I predicted a lot of it, and yeah, that just really affected my reading experience. And by the end of it, I didn't really end up enjoying this book that much. The next book that I want to talk about is the Grisha Trilogy, or the Shadow and Bone Trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. Now, again, I have done an entire in-depth video about this trilogy along with my analysis of the show. I released this last week actually, so again, I'll link it up here if you guys want to check it out. But this book, honestly, again, I did not hate it, but I do think that it is overrated. Like, the amount of people who glorify the series and make it out to be like one of the best young adult fantasy series out there, to me it doesn't deserve that kind of praise, because I felt like the series had a lot of faults. The first thing being the over-reliance of young adult fantasy tropes which are there in this book series. So this book series has so many tropes. It has the chosen one trope, it has the love triangle trope, and it has the classic trope of a female protagonist who thinks that she is ugly, and who thinks that she is not worthy of her title or whatever, an underconfident female protagonist, kind of like Bella Swan in Twilight. I feel like that trope has been used in so many young adult book series, and it really makes me angry whenever another female protagonist has that kind of characteristic. So I feel like this over reliance on already used fantasy tropes just makes this book series seem a little bit unoriginal. And the second thing that I really didn't like about this series was that the character development in this series is just a little bit poor. The reason why I say this, and I also feel it's because I'm comparing this series to Six of Crows, which is written by the same author and is also based in the same universe. But Six of Crows is so well developed. The world is so well developed, the characters are so well developed. Whereas here, I feel like the character development kind of becomes a bit flip-floppy as we go through the series, and it's just not the best written character development like we have in Six of Crows. It just wasn't a very satisfying reading experience. The next book that I want to talk about is Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden. Now, with this book also, I've had kind of a flip-floppy relationship. So the first time I read this book, I actually really liked it. So I was just really enamored by the entire geisha world in Japan in that particular time and whatever. I was really enamored by it. But then I watched the movie, and I was a little bit older, I think, when I watched the movie. And I started feeling a little bit uncomfortable with the way things were portrayed in the movie. And then when I kind of read the book again, I was a bit older. And when I looked back at everything, especially after coming to Singapore and meeting a lot of Japanese people, as well as just speaking to a lot of East Asian and Southeast Asian people, I just feel now that this book is so problematic. The first thing being that it is a white man who's written about the history of geishas and of Japan. And after speaking to a lot of Japanese people, they have said that the way that he's portrayed the entire geisha, the way he's portrayed geishas and all of that is quite inauthentic. He's sensationalized it and also sexualized it a lot. And I feel like that happens a lot with this whole Western way of viewing Asian culture, where it's always a little bit exotic, it's always a little bit sensational, and it's always a little bit sexual in that sense. And just listening to their experiences in reading the book and watching the movie and all of that, I now feel when I reread it as an adult, I can see places where it is highly problematic. And I always have this conflicting feeling of whether people who don't belong to that particular race or religion have the right to tell stories of a different race. For example, does a white person have the right to tell an Indian story? When it comes to fiction, I always think about these things. But in this case, I feel like it was badly executed, and it was sensationalized just for the sake of sensationalizing something. And yeah, that is why I feel like it is problematic. The next book that I want to talk about is The Lost Symbol by Dan Brown. Now, this one I actually feel like I couldn't finish reading this book. It's been ages since I've read a Dan Brown book, but I remember just being very bored by it. Now, I absolutely adore two of Dan Brown's books, which are The Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons. They are just absolutely amazing. But the thing with Dan Brown's books were that, like, after the novelty of Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons, every other book that he wrote kind of had the same plot, the same, like, same mystery with like symbols and symbolism and like conspiracy theories, old cults, and like things like that. Like, all of his books I felt had the same plot points, and that, like, to me just felt like it just got a little bit old. Like, I mean, it was really interesting and fun with Angels and Demons and the Da Vinci Code, but then with Lost Symbol and I think also Deception Point and Inferno, if I'm not mistaken, like, they all had very, very similar plot points. So it just went downhill from there, and his subsequent books just were not as magical and amazing as his first two ones. And the last book that I want to talk about is Unfinished by Priyanka Chopra Jonas. Now, again, I have done a full book review of this book, so I'll link it up here so you guys can check it out. But my biggest issue with this memoir by Priyanka Chopra is that I felt that I didn't learn anything new in this memoir. Like, I'm honestly not such a big fan of Priyanka Chopra, but even me not being such a huge fan of hers, by just watching a lot of her interviews and, like, a lot of her interviews on Coffee with Karan, or just like other interviews that she's done on talk shows and stuff, I feel like I knew almost everything that she had said in this book, apart from like a few personal things that she shared about her family. But like, those few personal things she shared about her family was not enough for me to be interested in this memoir. Like, for me, it just felt like this memoir was kind of written to cater to a more Western audience who probably doesn't know anything about her, rather than like her Indian fans, or even like any Indian Bollywood fan who knows a lot about Priyanka Chopra's life. So I just feel like it was not meant for us. It was not meant for Indians to read. It was more for her Western audience to understand more about her life. So yeah, that was my video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. I'm sorry if I said anything bad about your favorite book, but like I said, we can agree to disagree, and again, be nice in the comments. Whatever comment you leave below, just be nice. And yeah, if you like videos like these about books in general, then do consider subscribing to my channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.